Hello. People have asked about when I talked about art therapy to deal with grief. People actually asked some questions, and I thought this would be a really good way to kind of cover some of that. I was grieving before my dad passed. Was grieving for the things he was going to miss. I was grieving for the fact that he had cancer and was suffering and in pain and couldn't do things that he normally did on an everyday basis. You're going to hear vacuuming in the background. Mr. Rockstar is vacuuming. We are going to go get Victor, and we're going to have Victor for the weekend. I'm going to be dropping Victor back off Sunday morning because I have some work to do Sunday, but tomorrow we're going to go visit my mom. We're going to take Victor to visit my mom because he hasn't seen her since she was in the hospital. And this is a lot for a 5-year-old to take in. It's a lot for an adult to take in. He doesn't really understand death. His papa got sick and died. Then his nana got sick and got in the hospital. And now I think he needs to see my mom as much as my mom needs to see him. So grief and art therapy. I'm not doing I've looked up art therapy for grief, and it's any kind of art that you use to deal with your grief, to help get your grief on the page or on the canvas or on whatever medium you're using to put your art on. For me, it's in a notebook for now. I'm probably going to be doing it in some sketchbooks and maybe on some canvas eventually. But for now, it's been journal pages, and it's been in a variety of journals, and it's been different. I've been doing more nature drawing. I've been doing more some imagination stuff that I don't really do a whole lot, and a lot of that's thanks to Courtney Diaz from Little Raven Inc. I'm a patron of hers. And I've also been doing intentional journaling, which I learned from Romney, and I'm a patron of hers. And what I've done is change things up, and I'm going to do a setup video of this, and you'll get that Sunday, hopefully, because I've switched. I'm using a smaller journal to do everyday journaling in, and then the Taroko Design Enigma in the A6 for bullet journaling. I've streamlined some things. I still have my Hobonichi. It's over here in the A5 that I'm doing major planning in. I've talked about that. Household finances and bigger picture planning. But the everyday kind of thing I'm doing in here so that it's a little bit easier because November's going to be really busy with NaNoWriMo. So I've been doing, like I said, some nature journaling. The past few days, I've been doing a lot of this. The squirrels have been outside my window playing. I did a banana. I haven't journaled this part. I need to write down. But I'm going to do some catching up in my journal because I have quite a few blank pages. This is not been colored in yet, but that is where I drew Arwen's book that I use her method for outlining. And then I'm not doing any really art stuff in my bullet journal. But because of my lack of focus over the past few months, since July, since my dad's diagnosis with cancer and Mr. Rockstar's diagnosis with Crohn's disease, I've been kind of needing more structure and needing to streamline things when it comes to planning. So with the journaling for therapy wise, a lot of this, and it all pulls together. I know I started talking about art for therapy for grief, but it's all tying in together because anxiety and stress and depression and ADHD, when you add stress to the mix, I should say, of anxiety, depression, and ADHD, it's not a good thing. Super stressed out situations that make you super stressed out cause a lot of problems. My anxiety has been in overdrive. I've been fighting depression tooth and nail, and my focus has been all over the place lately. And it just got worse when my mom was when my dad passed and my mom was admitted to the hospital right before my dad was passed. I've been doing a number of things. Now, the last page that I did that was sort of a normal page, and I never did finish doing the writing for this page, was a goodbye September, hello October, because I was going to be doing Inktober. I did a pencil case, I did the bottle of ink, I had my bowl of cereal, I had breakfast, my coffee cup, me taking a nap because I was really tired, and then I just did the video where I did this. I had blank pages. For art therapy, this is the last day that evening's when my dad, of this date that I wrote on here. I chronicled that day up until the point where my dad was rushed to the ER. And our regular day, what happened that day, the regular stuff. And then I journaled about some of it. This was very much art therapy. Journaled after I did all the watercolor, and what I did was I drew rocks and the cliff, the precipice, and more rocks and the ocean and the waves, and I was having a really hard time. I couldn't even draw waves. Like, I couldn't draw cartoony clip arty kind of waves. I couldn't draw real waves. I ended up journaling. This is text journaling, getting things out. Like, over on the last part, just randomly I put, "Mom is better, that makes me so happy." This was art therapy. It was a memory, and I did write a little thing up at the top. I was thinking about my dad, and I was thinking about when I worked with him and what a wonderful experience that was working with him, and how me and my brother and my kids and my nephews and even little Mr. Victor got to take rides with him on heavy equipment. My dad was the superintendent for a construction company, and he drove heavy equipment, and I got to drive the triaxle and a lot of the equipment. But when I worked with him, this is the scene: me driving the triaxle and my dad driving the loader, and us doing like a whole lot of work. And my dad laughing at me because I had to double clutch the triaxle, and I was so short that I had to sit on the edge of the seat and use the steering wheel to brace myself in order to reach the clutch to double clutch it. And my dad was like, "Do you want me to put a wood block on the clutch for you?" I'm like, "I got it." But he made fun of me because I'm 5'2", and yeah. When we did this, I drew this. I looked up a little bit of equipment online, and I ended up drawing this. That was definitely art therapy. I don't do a whole lot of this. Usually it's when you see me draw big flowers like that, or things I'm going to journal over, it's because I just need to do something. I need to get some kind of art, some kind of not thinking, and I did the flowers. And I did me where I look sad and I'm reading. This is what I felt like when I was at the hospital, sitting in the chair waiting. I was reading books while I waited in the hospital room for doctors to come back in, and while my mom was sick. This is what I felt like. So I did that. These I have not even gotten to. This is the waiting room, and I drew it and different things like that we ate. And I drew a book here I'm going to write down because I was reading books, because I had art books with me and one regular fiction book because I couldn't concentrate to do fiction, so I was reading a lot of non-fiction while I was in the hospital room. This was art therapy and just chronicling my regular day, and I've been doing a lot of blues the last few days, but I'm calling it my blue period. This was out of my imagination for the most part, and that was a memory from when I was young. My dad and my mom used to go dancing, and my dad had a special a pair of cowboy boots made because his foot was really wide, and he had a Stetson, and he had this really cool looking blue denim shirt that had snaps. We're talking mid-70s. We're talking 76, 77, 78 when they used to do this. I did this. I haven't finished journaling on this page. And then I did this over a couple of days. I did this along with Courtney Diaz, and from her Patreon group, where she was showing how she does her line work. And then I created this one based on what I learned from doing the line work and watching her on the video, but I did all of this in blue. I started this one day, I just drew a coffee cup, and I never went back to the journal page. And then I went to here, and I did this along with Courtney during her video. And then the next day I did my own creature, and I'm going to take this creature, I talked about it in Patreon, and make this different and more me. Add glasses. My glasses are messed up right now, and I have enough contacts to wear for a few weeks, but I've got to get a new pair of glasses. You're going to see me in contacts for a good while because I'm having a really hard time seeing out of the glasses right now because of that stuff that's peeling off of them. And that's it. I'm going to do pages in here. I've not given up on my A5, and once November is over, I will change things up a bit because I'm getting prepared for next year because I'm going to be doing things differently for next year. What I've been doing is I used to do this like on a daily basis. Now I'm doing it as the mood strikes, and I will write dates of when I start and finish a page. Like one page may be 3 dates where I worked on it. Maybe it'll be 3 different days I worked on it. And I usually do chronological, but right now I'm doing as I need to. I'm not letting the bigger page overwhelm me, filling up the 2-page spread that I normally do. Sometimes I even do 3 or 4 pages for a day in this one. I've been taking art, and sometimes it's hard. I've been drawing a coffee cup to start with because I can draw the coffee cups in my sleep. I've been drawing a coffee cup to start with, and then I'll go from there. Maybe I'll draw a book. Maybe I'll draw the glue stick. Maybe I'll draw the paint palette. Maybe I'll draw what we ate for breakfast or for dinner or for lunch, or I'll draw something, anything from my day, and then as I continue throughout the day, I'll draw things from my day. That's normally what I do. Now I'm drawing memories. I'm drawing bits and pieces of what is on my mind. Things from my childhood, things that remind me of my dad. I put the plaque up there. The plaque says, I put it on Instagram. The plaque says, my father gave me the greatest gift anyone could give another person. He believed in me. And that's my dad and Victor. My daughter drew that for me based on a picture I took. That was Victor's first ride when he was a little tiny fella on the 4-wheeler. And my dad had a terrific time. He was laughing. But Victor wasn't so sure about it. It scared Victor just a little bit to begin with. Now, I'm going to have to get David or my daughter or a brother or somebody to give Victor a ride on the 4-wheeler because I still don't know how to drive it. My dad was going to teach me, but I still don't know how to drive it. So I'm probably going to get my daughter or David to teach me how to drive the 4-wheeler because I want to take Victor for rides on the 4-wheeler like my dad took us and like my dad took my kids and my nephews and like he used to take Victor. So I've been dealing with the grief therapy, with the grief through therapeutic means creatively. I've been working on my NaNoWriMo outline. I've been reading fiction and nonfiction. I've been creating art. And like I said, some of that art is based on memories. Some of that art is based on pictures. Some of that art is all different kinds of things. Some of it's using my imagination. And I'm probably going to go through different periods because of the different phases of grief. Like I talked about in a video for Patreon, I'm probably going to go through a red, yellow, orange phase. You know, maybe different a gray phase, depending on the mood. And at the same time, some of that really helps me with, like, say, color theory. And doing different things, it helps me get out of my comfort zone. And when I'm creating art, I have a hard time doing journal process videos where I talk while I'm creating art. That's the focus. But sometimes I get like really into the art, and I've noticed lately that I've been wanting to do different things that I don't have to think so much about, like creating. And I've noticed that I want to do a lot more nature, landscape, animals, like what you consider to be a field sketch notebook. That's what I've been doing in the smaller Hobonichi. Yeah, so my stuff is changing. How I look at things is changing. How I plan and stuff are changing. I once struggled super hard to do an Omni journal. And if you looked in my journals, you'd see where mostly I still do that to a degree. Commonplace journaling, research, notes, that kind of stuff. It actually goes a lot in the bullet journal right now, which is right here. Usually it's in an A5 because I write big, but I needed to streamline. And a good friend sent me this A6 because I really wanted to try an A6 Traveler's Notebook. I had the A6 Hobonichi, and I had this, which has got next year's, the first version of the AVAC in it. I talked about that. Things are going to change some, and I'm excited about those changes. I think they've been needed for a while, and I can omni-journal now. I could do every single thing in one journal if I wanted to. Past that, though, I need one journal that's sort of Grand Central Station still, which is the A5 Hobonichi is sort of, which is my planner, it is sort of a Grand Central Station. And then my big journal is sort of a Grand Central Station. And then I have a journal I was text journaling in was the Taroko Design Breeze, and it was more of my commonplace journal. But I also did some art in it. But I'm finding that as my ADHD has been so with everything, that I actually need more structure, less art for my planning. Now that is subject to change as I heal and past the bulk of this. You never get over the death of someone you love. Never do. My father died when I was 7, and my mom remarried. I've had a wonderful stepdad. I don't consider him to be my stepdad. I consider my daddy to be my daddy and my dad to be my dad. But as time passes, you learn how to cope with it easier. It gets easier, but it never gets easy. And I know this already. So right now I'm dealing with the overabundance of feelings and sadness and loss. So having to focus on my mom so much sort of postponed some. And now I've been dealing with my dad's death, really dealing with it because my mom is out of the hospital and doing better. So I will talk some more later about art therapy, and because I'm not an art therapist, just using art as a therapeutic means to get through my grief in a healthy way. Bye, y'all. Thanks for watching.